misleading advertisements. Now, we always like to talk about this one. And when we're talking about this, we look at the rules of conduct, and clause 15 in there is soliciting through false or misleading advertisements or communications. But I mean, even outside of the rules of conduct, it's all about misleading or false advertisements. And again, it's about that whole issue that underpins not just the Property Stock and Business Agents Act, but so many other pieces of legislation about transparency with your consumer. So it's about customer service, it's about transparency, it's about being trusted. I feel like I'm about to say it's about the vibe of the Act, and it kind of is. So, the explanation of that is when you're marketing a property for sale, we're heavily legislated in New South Wales as agents, and we need to ensure that we're actually abiding by all the legislation that we have. So obviously the Property Stock and Business Agents Act prohibits us from, misleading and deceptive practices when we're marketing or in anything that, what we're putting in writing, what we're putting on the internet, what's coming out of our mouths. Not only that, it's also addressed in the Competition Consumer Act of 2010. So we need to be aware of all of that. So I guess a good example of this is, as an agent, when you've marketed a property for sale and, one of the photographs shows that there's a dishwasher on the premises. You're fully aware that the vendor intends to take the dishwasher with them, or anything that might be a really fancy built-in wine fridge, and that they're going to be taking that with them. Then, make sure that your photos don't reflect that wine fridge. That's probably more up to date than the dishwasher, because by having that in that photos, you're giving the purchaser a belief that the dishwasher is included in the sale. You mightn't be saying yes or no. Even though you haven't included in the written property description that there's a dishwasher in it, one, make sure that your front page of your contract is there as an exclusion, but two, don't put it in the photos. So be careful about the photos that you're doing, and give direction to the photographer when they're doing it. Don't get a photo of this. It would be also when you're editing photographs for your marketing process. Turning the sky, a beautiful shade of pink, or nice, to depict a really nice sunset or something, may be quite acceptable. Deliberately removing telegraph poles or wires, to make the house look more inviting with the view, is definitely inviting a breach of misleading and deceptive. So under all of the aspects of the legislation that we work under, just be careful about what you're writing in your advertisements, what photos you're putting in, because it's not just the spoken word, it's the photographs as well. So because a lot of people are looking at that when they might be sitting, in their on the train or on the bus or on the ferry on their way home from work, they're looking at their phones, they're looking at their tablets, and they're scrolling through and seeing the photos. They might look into something that they like the pictures of more later, but the pictures are what's getting them to start with. So those pictures are just as important as what you're putting into your written words, what you're saying in your brochures, what's coming out of your mouths. So guys, just be really careful of that. And remember, under the supervision guidelines, requirement 4 there is you actually have to have a checklist that there is nothing misleading and deceptive in your advertisements. So guys, part of your sales process there is whoever's preparing the ads. Now, bigger agencies might have 2 or 3 people involved in that. Smaller agencies, it might just be you. And you're the one who's listing the property, writing the ad, organising the photographs, sometimes even taking the photographs, just checking the ad, lodging the ad, putting the ad up on the internet, all of those things. But you need to check that there's no misleading and deceptive. Bigger agencies, as I said, when there's 2 and 3 people, the person actually doing the final check may not have seen the property at all. So they're going on what you as a listing agent have provided to them. So just be very, very careful of that, and remember that it is heavily legislated, as with everything else that we do. So a good thing to remember when you're doing your advertisements. Obviously, it's still important for property management. You're just using often less photographs, but still just as important, just as legislated, and just as necessary to make sure there's no misleading and deceptive information in those ads for either sales or property management.